caution. Your paradigm is about to shift at the intersection of fact and reason. You're entering Kingston Country.
I'm Dan Kingston, and you're listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast. So joining us today on the podcast again is Tim from North Carolina, our conspiracy theory expert, although some of these conspiracy theories are just turning into factual theories more and more, wouldn't you say, Tim?
Well, you know what they say, truth is stranger than fiction, Dan.
It's true. Look, one thing I want to ask you about, I know you're doing a ton of research and people are coming to us for coronavirus news. I want to be careful about not just recording podcasts unless there's new information. And oh my gosh, there is so much new information right now. One thing that struck me was this quadratic epidemic growth model. This guy on Reddit successfully predicted what the numbers would be using this equation. And it's always 2.1%, no matter what it is. And it looks suspicious to me. Are the Chinese just guessing on these numbers?
I think the Chinese are flubbing their numbers. I think that it's totally false. I think it's way worse than what we're seeing. Word is on the street that they're quarantining Beijing now, which tells you that they have definitely not isolated it to Wuhan and surrounding cities.
If you were located in China, would you be scared? I mean, would you be frightened right now if you were located in China?
I would either try to find a rural part of China to live or try to get out of China altogether. I'd be trying to find a way out. It's just as it spreads and they don't stop it, it's going to become more chaotic.
What about that chemical fog that's being sprayed everywhere? Have you seen the images of that?
I know it's terrifying that they're having to go through the streets to do that. But Dan, let me point out one thing.
Yeah.
We've never seen anything like this before. Not in a major hub. Yes, people can argue and say, well, there's been Ebola breakouts, or outbreaks, in Africa. But this is the first time in a major developed country that something like this has happened.
Hundreds of millions quarantined. That's unprecedented. Yep. Nothing near like that has ever happened.
No, and we're seeing for the first time on TV and internet videos of what kind of response that the governments have in place. And I should say that the guy in Biohazard suits with firearms, kind of a eyebrow raising thing to see.
You warned about this weeks ago on this podcast, and multiple things that we've both been warning about have been coming true. And again, it's kind of infuriating to me seeing these things on CNN or the mainstream media just now being reported that we've been covering. Even the New York Times, it's the cable news, it's the television news that's completely ignoring this altogether. Or at least it was. Now they're doing a little bit more attention to it. Is it maddening to you as well to see that?
It is, but I think that the media knows they're being lied to also by the Chinese government. And the last thing they need to do right now is lose more credibility than they've already lost due to their political coverage. That has definitely had an effect on whether people trust the media or not. The Chinese are just spilling bullshit. They're in a panic. Their president, nobody's seen him lately. I'm pretty sure he's probably out of the country by now. If he's not, he probably should have been a long time ago.
There was one video just surfaced of him wearing a mask, I think outside a Beijing hospital, whether it was him or a clone or a lookalike, who the hell knows. But it was like the only image of him out there for weeks, and it does look like he's being protected or hidden for whatever reason. Look, you're looking into some of the more controversial conspiracy theory elements of this. And at first it was the biolab was a conspiracy theory. Now that's being widely reported. I mean, Senator Tom Cotton said, look at the biolab. Yeah. But what other elements are we going to start hearing about in the following weeks that you're hearing about now, that you're going to tell us?
I've got three theories here about what's taking place, and I'm going to cover those.
Yes.
The first one is You know, it was a biolab. There was an accident. It got out. They're trying to contain it. Two, the Chinese released it on their own to try to squash these uprisings they've been having due to the Hong Kong protests, and in other provinces too. They've been having uprisings against the communist government. They're trying to squash that. Three, it was espionage by another country. Which country, I'm not dare going to say on the air. I know that there's been some agreements, some trade agreements between other countries that have been signed that the Chinese aren't included in, and some of those other countries would definitely benefit if the Chinese manufacturing came to a halt or a big slowdown because they're unable to produce because everyone's sick.
So you're saying that a big manufacturing country like India would have a motivation to sink Chinese manufacturing?
I mean, I wouldn't even put it past the United States government. It just, I think that everything that happens in this world happens for a reason. I don't think anything is coincidental or happens by accident.
You really think that our own government would send a bioweapon, or Trump would do that for economic purposes?
They've done some really dirty things in the past. But then again, let me state here.
Yeah,
I think that's the third and least likely scenario. But it's also got to stay in the back of my mind.
Well, it does, because for this one simple thing is I've heard that this might just be targeting Asian people. Now, this is a very conspiracy theory kind of thing, but I've been hearing it from a couple different sources that is making me scratch my head and ask, is there any credibility to that? Have you seen any truth to that?
I've been trying to debunk it, and I can't. I've been trying to find the names of victims that aren't Asian. I can't find any.
Are the patients in the U.S., are their names released, all 12?
No, they're not. It's just searching the internet trying to find anything. And there's nothing out there, Dan. The other thing that's kind of a striking like red flag to me is there's no release of the image of the virus right through a microscope or anything like that. With the SARS virus, Ebola, hell, they had those images on the nightly news within 2 days. You knew what the strain looked like through a microscope on the 6:30, NBC News with Lester Holt.
More and more, this is looking like it's been modified by humans, right?
And they're saying that the people that have seen this strain are saying this has all the indicators of being man-made and genetically modified.
Did you hear that there's like HIV sections in this pathogen? Did you hear about that?
I heard a whisper about it. I'm not clear enough on it to speak about it.
Well, let me just say, I heard that it was condemned as a horrible, horrible lie that was spreading, and then that same scientist looked at it himself and said, "Oh, well, actually, there are a few HIV parts in this, but it could have happened naturally." And so he kind of had to walk back. So a lot of these things sound really shocking until you start looking more and more into it, and you have to scratch your head and say, isn't it irresponsible not to look close at this?
I think that I think that if you don't take a look at it, you're crazy.
Yep.
We need to know what it is. There needs to be There needs to be a meeting of the minds in the medical field, gathered all around, taking a look at this thing, and it needs to be made public. Hey, this is what this is. And I think that the reason it's not is because it's a released bioweapon. I mean, I don't think everybody's like, well, it can't be a bioweapon because it's not killing that many people. We don't know how many people this thing's killed.
We do not know that. We do not know. It's 2.1%, but that 2.1% is coming out with every single release of numbers. It looks like it's artificial.
That's right. We don't know how many people this thing's killed. Nobody's talking about the hospital they built in 10 days anymore. The only thing I know is when I see the images of China right now, the only thing I'm seeing is empty streets, ghost towns.
I've heard that people are being cremated, that they run out of cremating space, that they are having an issue with just capacity, testing enough people and cremating enough people. So anyone's guess what the real numbers are because of that.
If you look at the reaction on some of these videos that do escape Twitter, and I will say this about Twitter right now, if you see a video on Twitter, it's usually disappeared within 24 hours.
Wow.
Why? They're taking them. They are censoring hard. But if you look at the reaction of these people that are supposedly getting into ambulances, these people know what's going to happen to them.
They're being chased.
By the way they're reacting.
You see that?
Yeah.
Ugh.
You got to think, these people are local. They've got intelligence that we don't have there. They know things that we don't know out in the outside world. So they know to run from these guys. And they know to run from the government officials. Yeah. I'd almost bet you right now, if you have a family member that's sick and you're inside of China, you're not breathing a word up to anyone that your family member's sick, because you know that you're all going to be targeted and hauled off to God knows where.
What about that video of the police officer? Looks like he's on top of the woman and like touching her, and she's saying, "Stop raping me." Is that just a video that, you see police videos in this country too? And is that just a one-off video, or is there something more to that?
I think it's probably a lot of fake videos out there too. But one of the striking things to me about these videos, I see these people with all they have is the N95 mask on. And they're grabbing a hold of these infected people. I mean, first of all, I don't care how much money you have. You can't pay me enough to go grab a hold of somebody who has this virus.
You can't pay you enough, but if they say they'll drag you to a concentration camp, you'd probably comply.
I guess. but you would at least think that you would take a little bit more precaution.
I don't think they care about anybody who's working for them. They don't care about their police. They don't care about their people. They don't care about their doctors. The rate of infected among the healthcare workers, it's tragic. And actually, we don't even know because they're not releasing it.
The doctors are getting sick. Police are getting sick. The healthcare workers are getting sick. They're running out of people. They're running out of people. And the one thing that you do not see is the Chinese military. Nowhere have you seen a Chinese military in any of these videos.
Is that to protect them?
I'm starting to wonder. I think the Chinese suspect that this was an attack. There's been stories floating around for some time about how the Chinese are shifting the fentanyl into the United States to poison the youth of America. And sometimes, you could almost argue that this is some kind of retribution or karma back towards them. Well, the Chinese are calculated. If anything, I think they're holding their military, they're quarantining their military away from the populace.
I think you're right, and that would make sense. I mean, it's not a stupid strategy, actually. If you have a horrible virus spreading, the last thing you want is your military to get infected, then you're a sitting duck.
Yep, exactly right. The other thing that I'm thinking, too, is the economic side of this. And I started digging into this a little bit this afternoon. Didn't have a whole lot of time, but I tried to do the best I can. And the manufacturing processes in China and the manufacturers depend mainly on human labor. If everybody's getting sick, staying home, these factories aren't producing anything.
Yeah.
There's a chance that we're going to start seeing some shortages of some items that are shipped out of China to the United States. I think there will be shortages of some things that, I think Walmart's going to take a huge hit because 75% of the items at Walmart come from, China. You're going to start seeing companies look at other countries. This is a big deal for China.
A lot of people say, who cares about China's manufacturing? They're, this is what they get for giving us such crappy products and that kind of thing. And I guess, is that overlooking the fact that this could cause a world recession or something even greater than that? I mean, could this be really painful economically?
Well, one, yes, it's going to be painful. We're going to feel it.
How bad? Like, you think it's going to be a recession, a depression, or something in between?
I don't know if it'll be a I don't know if we will feel a recession or a depression. I think it'll stop the growth in the United States temporarily until manufacturing is set up from other locations.
And then does Trump get blamed? Does Trump get blamed for that in that scenario?
Trump won't get blamed for it. I don't think you can blame Trump for this.
Well, the mainstream media, they always find a way, don't they?
They sure do. But one of the things that I want to put out here, and I want every one of your listeners to sit and think about this, is we can say, oh, don't give a shit about China, screw them, screw them. You know, there's people there. And these people are living their lives. And I'm talking about just ordinary citizens there. They're going to be the ones who suffer. Right. The Chinese government will not suffer. The communist regime will not suffer in China, but the people will.
Well, yes, I want to echo that so much because the Chinese people are the victims here. And it's horrible what their government's doing to them. And I don't want anyone to get the wrong message from my tough talk about coronavirus. If there's anything that we have to be afraid of Chinese people, it's their damn government, and it's what they're doing to their people that are putting us all at risk.
I mean, you know, it's kind of like the Russian boogeyman during the Cold War. I mean, we were all scared of the Russians. Turns out the Russian people love Americans, and Americans feel kind of the same towards them. But it's the government,
right,
that are the problem. And I think that the government in China is the biggest problem here. If China would have said in decent first, when this thing first became a problem, hey, we got a problem. Can you guys come help us contaminate this, or we'll quarantine this real quick before it gets contaminated? You know, we can squash this thing. Mm-hmm. But they don't. And I'll tell you another thing too. I didn't watch the Oscars much last night, but did they even say anything about the coronavirus in China?
I was shocked when American Factory, which actually is a terrific movie, it was produced by Obama, but I don't know why he picked that movie because it's a very great movie on Netflix. It won Best Picture for documentary, and they mention nothing. The movie's about China. It's about a Chinese-owned American factory, and they mention nothing about the coronavirus, and I thought it was a real missed opportunity for those filmmakers. I mean, it was crazy, so I don't know what it is. I think it's more of the sweep it under the rug, don't upset China.
Who owns Hollywood now? Put
China.
That question there.
China.
Bingo. Right? Bingo. They don't want any attention on that kind of stuff. So instead, they're going to put a guy on TV on the E channel with wearing a dress on the red carpet to tell you that you're wrong for thinking that's wrong.
Yeah, no, it's true.
They're going to keep you divided, and they're going to keep you distracted with all of these things that really don't matter. Why they're over there trying to sweep the real things underneath the rug.
Well, they're still saying be more afraid of the flu, be more of, seasonal flu is what you should really be afraid of. And that's still the debate going on NPR today. So they are so far behind. On this cruise ship in Japan, have you seen any of this? There's like over 100 now are infected.
Yeah, I've seen that. I'm gonna go back to what you said about NPR.
Yeah.
NPR is nothing. It's nothing but bullshit, leftist propaganda. Yeah. And it's run out of the universities. It's a lot of dirty money that runs that thing. And taxpayer dollars. But I shouldn't be taxpayer. I mean, I don't want my taxpayer money going to leftist propaganda. That's pushed through that with the Tokyo Rose NPR voice. That's what I think of every time I hear NPR. I think of the Tokyo Rose, radio thing that you'd hear during those World War II movies and all those, how they use that soft voice and,
It's all phony and fake propaganda. I agree 100%. Yeah. It's hard to listen to.
It's awful.
Yeah.
But Dan, we said we would touch base and see how this thing was forming up. And I don't know if we're also being lied to about how far it's reached other countries too. That's another thing that's on my radar right now is, are we being told the truth by other countries also? Or, or other countries saying, nope, we don't have any coronavirus here. Nothing to look for. And, they got people,
that's frightening,
locked up in rooms.
Because you see how the world's reacted to China. And of course, maybe other countries are saying, wait a minute, we have to hide and cover up our own infection. I never thought about that. It's a great idea. I know your time is limited, Tim, but you have a big announcement. You're starting your own podcast March 1st. Is that right?
I am, Morel. Tentatively, it's going to be March 1st. It's the Patriot X podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Patriot X podcast.
What are you thinking for this podcast? I mean, is it conspiracy theory stuff or other stuff, or is it a mix?
It's gonna be all. It's gonna be a mix of psychological control, conspiracy. Then it's gonna be just some plain talk.
Yes.
It's gonna be some real world events and put my own personal spin on it. And I'm going to go into my personal story here in the first podcast of how I was a left-leaning young man, and now I wouldn't say ultra conservative, but more of a libertarian now. How did I make that transition? What things did I see in this world that hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not right anymore. What am I seeing here? What am I really seeing? I mean, whether you're a leftist or you're ultra conservative, should just give it a try and listen to it. I'm not going to be stand up there and blow my horn about Trump or anything like that. I really don't want to put a lot of political bias into it. I actually want to keep the political bias out of it. So,
that's hard. It's good to do. I think we need more of that, and I'll definitely put a link to your podcast into this description when it's up and ready to go. So I'm excited for that. It's great to podcast. And anybody out there listening right now, you should podcast too and join this community because it's a ton of fun. And podcasting's great, and we need more citizen journalists. Don't you agree, Tim?
Yep. And one more thing. Epstein didn't hang himself.
This is Kingston Country.
The Dan Kingston Podcast is brought to you by Traveling with Janice and Cruise Brothers. This is a great time of year to plan your summer vacations. Lots of great travel specials for cruises and tours. Call Traveling with Janice and Cruise Brothers for all these ideas for families, groups, weddings. 480-648-3324 or email travelingwithjanice@gmail.com. I want to wrap up and just talk a little bit about that cruise ship off of Japan with over 100 now infected. The update now is I've actually reached out to a young woman aboard the cruise ship who was quoted in the New York Times. My wife says, how do you know if she's really on the cruise ship? Well, she's posting pictures of the situation, what they're seeing, the meals, the letters. She's even posting audio from the messages that the captain is giving over the PA system. Again, this is the cruise ship that's quarantined off Japan. And she was quoted in the New York Times several days ago saying she was overhearing a sickly cough and worried that somebody in a cabin next door to her or nearby might have been infected with coronavirus. I reached out to her. I messaged her on Twitter, and I asked if the person she heard coughing, if she still hears the coughing. And she said yes. She speaks Japanese, and she doesn't speak English, or else I would get her on this podcast. But she was using a translation device, and so I asked her, did you report to the doctor's office or somebody, an official on the ship, that you're hearing sickly coughing? And she said that she did. She said that she did. She reached out to the doctor on that cruise ship, the doctor's office, but they told her that he would need to reach out himself. They simply could not cope. And that was a word that she used, cope. They could not cope. I don't want to raise alarm bells if this was a translation issue. I don't know. I followed up. I said, what do you mean they can't cope? Did they mean that he needs to call himself, or that even if he called, they can't cope? She says she thinks both. She thinks that they can't cope unless they get a call from the infected person themselves. And even then, she worries that they're having difficulty coping. You're seeing ambulances outside of that cruise ship taking people that are infected that test positive. They're taking them off the cruise ship and getting them help, getting them treatment. you would assume, treating the symptoms because they don't have any cure for the actual virus, right? Now, if you're on this ship, I don't want you to be concerned. You should be concerned. I don't want you to be panicked. And if you're in a situation in China or in any kind of situation, panicking doesn't help. But looking at the facts, being concerned, staying alert, that can help. It can help. Now, is this situation on this cruise ship going to get worse? Potentially, yes. They're having the tough conversation now of deciding whether they should test every single person aboard that cruise ship. There's thousands. That would be an incredibly intensive process. But right now, more and more people they test are coming up positive. You have people coughing and not getting the tests or the treatment they need, potentially afraid of coming forward. It's a bad situation, probably the worst situation outside China that we know of right now dealing with the coronavirus. But like Tim said, what we don't know is a situation on the ground in other countries that are perhaps trying to cover themselves or save face like China did.
Kingston Country. You've been listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast.
Dan Kingston here, asking you to do me a huge favor. Will you possibly rate the Dan Kingston Podcast on Apple Podcasts? Each new rating, believe it or not, really does have a major impact on the way Apple's algorithm recommends content. With just one quick click, you can help promote citizen journalism and end the stranglehold of the mainstream media. Together, we're going to do this. Thank you. I really appreciate your support.